All right, so thank you guys for taking some time out, to observe, get on here. We actually want you guys to get some feedback, ask some questions, just to help you understand a lot of this. Information that we're wanting to give out has helped empower us, enable us to be more effective and more efficient in leadership roles and parenting roles, help out overall with communication. So we've broke this down into segment that most people say, communication is key. We want to kind of back into that a little bit. So the way that we've broke this out in our 4-part series is bringing self-awareness kind of first and foremost, and then also going into emotional intelligence, and what that looks like and how important that can be. And once you've then have a better understanding of self and how you communicate and how you function, moving that into an empathetic, that's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, actually feeling and experiencing what they're going through. That creates a lot of relatability. And then lastly, once now we understand ourselves, how we communicate, how others function, breaking into communication aspect so we can communicate more effectively. Because at the end of the day, communication is just to help understand somebody else's perspective. So if we're able to use the right words, understand where those feelings and everything else comes from, we can use that more effectively in our lives.
Yes, that's a good way to say it, because what we give ourselves is the degree that we can give to others. So like Matt said, that's why we started with self, because it does really start with self. And once we understand a lot of these things, you can really understand a lot of people, and choosing the right words to communicate and what you are communicating. Sometimes the projection goes to anger, but really the underlining of that is you're not angry, you're just really just sad.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a really good series, and I'm glad you guys are here to go through it with us.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we broke this down into 4 segments. We want to encourage some questions, some interaction, things like that between each one, and then hopefully we've set enough time aside at the end that we have some time for question and answer. But the importance of this, is leadership. I have heard, the stat that it was 85% of people are not self-aware. And I know if you look at this as an outsider looking in, it's like, well, I know what being self-aware is. I'm aware of myself. But we want to break it down into more of an understanding. And what we've found is a lot of people will just point to what the problems are. We're not necessarily giving you the answers, but it's one of those things that we will show you where to look, or how we have found clarity and answers to more understand ourselves, how others work, how it affects our day-to-day lives, so you don't carry around a lot of that baggage. In leadership, if 85% of people are not self-aware, it's really tough to lead people. Some people just don't know what they don't know. They've never been shown or had it demonstrated to them. So I find myself in my day-to-day work life having to do that. And so Janita and I have spent a ton of time really just breaking this down to better understand it, so it's more a bite-sized type of thing. And like I said, helps you look in the right directions rather than just pointing out the same shit that everybody else sees or says, when you try to research what this means.
And we're going to try our best to cram it in an hour, because there is a lot of info. We're going to do also follow-up classes and more in depth about what we are talking about here, because it is a process to learn something deeper and deeper and deeper. Yep. So this is just not a one-time thing. I feel like we can go more in depth about some stuff. Pertaining to this.
And the good news is you guys have actually all taken action and taken steps in the right direction to make progress on this, so we appreciate your support and your feedback on it, because it starts with just an action, moving in that direction. So we hope to get you thinking, like I said, have you guys engaged in this. So we broke this down into the 4 parts of self-awareness, self-aspect, and those are the ones that we most commonly hear. That would be your physical, your mental, more of your spiritual or soul level, as some people would refer to it. And then, of course, we've saved the best for last, which is emotional awareness, as we feel that all of those feed back into those other 3 houses. So we'll jump into physical first. Most of us are aware of our 5 senses. That's your sight, taste, smell, touch, and hearing. We want to talk more about your body awareness, or proprioception. as it's called. That is your sixth sense, as some people refer to it. That's more than just your body's sense of position and movement. Primarily with no visual input. That's your ability, to close your eyes and know, to put the tip of your finger to your nose without even looking. It's your awareness to the inner workings of your body. We want to break that down into more specific things, so that you're able to listen to your body a little bit differently or see some of the signs that it's giving you, some of that feedback. But it's your body's awareness. You have proprioceptors as well as your sensory, system in your nervous system. That goes into your muscles, your joints, your tendons. That's why you can sense and feel things. That's why some people will say, hey, my injuries, it's going to rain, it's going to storm. Is some of those things are thrown off where they're a little bit more sensitive. So getting into that, we all know our body parts. We know, your arms, your legs, your head, your eyes. And your position, within like your environment. So, that comes into your balance and things. We want to get more into a little bit of the body sensations and also your body cues. Those 4 segments of your body's awareness, body parts, body positions, your sensations, and your body cues, are all the feedback that we get. Now, we use our other main 5 to pick up patterns and pick up things around like in our surroundings. But those underlying things that your body is telling you that you may not notice can be expressed in a lot of different ways, from how you carry hypertension to skin sensitivities or like outbreaks, rashes. That's your body signaling something's not right. A lot of people are also affected by gut and digestion things. So really kind of get into that and the importance of properly taking care of our physical self. Because after all, this is our one and only vessel in this life, and I feel that it is important to keep that mechanism, this meat suit, whatever you want to call it, as healthy and as functional as it can be. Now, a lot of feedback that I get too is people say, well, that's expensive or that takes time. For us, I do believe that that is important to carve time out, because when we start breaking down a lot of these other things into mental and emotional, you're going to want to have like your body functioning as well as it possibly can. Because like I said, it is your one and only house, your one and only vessel. So really to try and maximize your output. For those that say, I can't afford it, for me, it's the flip. Like, I can't afford not to, because I know what my performance and my overall health dictates all those other aspects within my life. So I feel this is one that I'm most passionate about. You'll probably hear mostly from me on it. But, as far as Janita can also give you some feedback too, as she's been living here, with me for 3 years. Also, one of the other participants in this, had lived with me and would arguably say he was in the best shape of his life. So with that, the ability to listen and decipher what your body's telling you.
Okay.
All right, sorry if it cut out there for a second. But, as I was indicating, a lot of things can be expressed through your body. Most common is skin. That's obviously your largest organ in your body, as we learned back in science. So with that, things get expressed outwardly through your body. You may also notice more immediate signs, such as digestive issues, and that's your body's inability to process things. You may also, a lot of people are affected by migraines. I know I was for a long time before I discovered some of the food allergies and started on my quest, to give you a little bit of back history on me. I used to be one of those guys, eat anything and everything I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and slowly started getting debilitating migraines and some major hypertension issues. Long story short, I trusted Western medicine too much. They were more treating the symptoms rather than the root cause. Switched the mindset over to more of a holistic wellness side of things. And really it boiled down to my diet. It was my body's inability to process the things like I thought it used to be able to. Since cutting that out, quality of life, overall health, fitness, everything else like that skyrocketed. But it was something so simple that I was overlooking, and that's why I feel the importance to take care of your body via eating good food. Something I lack on is getting, enough sleep. But also exercising, like your body was made to move. You know, I think physical activity helps keep you young, keep you agile, keep the flexibility in things. And then also plenty of water. That's an area that I know a lot of us lack. But getting plenty of water. I know a lot of people say like coffee contains water, energy drinks contain water. That's one of those things that I've had to cut out, and through proper nutrition, you know, proper sleep, hydration, you know, I don't need those things any longer. Now, Janita can attest to, you know, as I said, her switching some things. She thought she understood a lot about physical side of health, you know, just like I said, the basics of food, sleep, water, you know, exercise. But, you know, some of the things that she's now in tune with and understands. For those of you who aren't aware, I am gluten-free. That was causing a lot of my hypertension issues. And then I also don't do good with dairy, primarily lactose and casein. I can eat some dairy alternatives and things, do some dairy alternative proteins. But when it comes to casein and lactose, you know, it's a struggle. But, you know, that was causing digestive issues. So, you know, Janita can give you some feedback as far as her diet, her background. She's Native American, had a different type of more meat and vegetable diet, but also some of the things that the nations were fed or kind of pushed on. You have some experiences as far as what it did to general health for a lot of those people.
Right, right. So yeah, my background is I'm Native American, so we pretty much graze our own meat, and then you know, we farmed. So it was pretty much just meat, vegetable, and water. A little bit of, you know, fruits here and there, which would be like in the melon family, watermelon, cantaloupe, and that stuff. So, so growing up like that, you know, as a young kid, it was really amazing, right? And then went into other food that was on the reservation, and I kind of understood how that was affecting my body in a way. I had hypothyroidism, and I you know, went between hyper and hypothyroidism for a good while. And then I started sort of understanding a little bit about more of organic food and stuff like that, and I kind of made the switch to it. And in about 5 years, I started really taking a deeper dive into the 4 aspects of my life, which would be emotional, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And the last one I really wanted to attack was physically. And I really want to understand that. And that's pretty much when I met Matt, and living with him for 3 years, I really understand what it means to take care of your body in a way of not malnourishing or, you know, feeding it bad stuff, gluten and dairy. I didn't realize that I was sensitive to that. But doing, you know, changing my diet and doing exercise, strength training for almost 5 to 6 days a week. It was such a miraculous change in a way of seeing my body get more defined. And not only that, but like my skin, everything that was outside of me that I can see and touch. And not only that, but feel. I felt so much better.
Slept better.
Yeah, slept better. There was, and sickness.
Yeah.
Like we have not gotten sick for
knock on wood.
A long time.
Yeah.
I actually don't remember the last time, but yeah, there's just so much changing. And I am really grateful in being more aware of the physical side. And so the thing I want to touch on with physical awareness, as far as senses, you know, we're taught the 5 senses as kids, right? But we really aren't taught to listen to the other organs of our body. And one of them you mentioned is the skin. The skin really does tell us what we are sensitive to or allergic to, with rashes, with blisters and stuff like that. And then depending on where, you know, it pops up and stuff like that. And the other thing you mentioned is digestive system. We have digestive system. Okay, so really quick, the digestive system is a place that an organ in your body that processes food, right? So if you have diarrhea, if you have indigestion, digestive issues, what does that mean for self? Is it because I'm not processing stuff? Am I denying stuff? Am I rejecting stuff? Am I, looking the other direction? So how is it in life that I am not digesting something, right? So all these organs in your body that we really aren't taught how to use them and how to listen to them. Even down like a kidney's the filter of the body. What are we not filtering out? Is it the friends, the work area, because this pertains to.
Yeah, she's getting at is that a lot of like the unhealthiness that you may be experiencing in your body or you're feeling in your organs, you can manifest those, and that's where you see a lot of illness, heart disease. You have digestive issues, you have people who process stuff too. As far as going to people who don't speak, that are kind of choked, having, throat type of stuff too. A lot of the other symptoms that, we'll get into a lot as far as like how you process those, how they can manifest into like physical aspects of your body as well. Mm-hmm. But through, the food and everything, you notice you didn't have to really work out as hard. Most people think, oh, well, you got to be in the gym busting your ass. No, I always tell people like muscle is built in the gym, abs are built in the kitchen. That leanness and everything, your body's ability to process stuff all happens in the kitchen, and that's your input, that's your fuel, your building supplies for your vessel. So you don't have to go and bust your ass. You don't have to, it just like suddenly you just start dropping weight, leaning out, your shape starts coming back, you see definition. Mm-hmm. And as I said, we got a message, and said I was in the best shape, back then. But that's one of those things that's just a matter of making that important. And a lot of people will say they don't have time, but you need to make time. That kind of goes back into that self-care and that self-awareness, so hopefully we gave you guys a few pointers, as far as to listen to your body's sensations, why something's aching, where things are aching at. And also those body cues, the ones that go beyond the I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need to pee. Like those are the ones that we're all super common with. But those other cues that can keep coming up, those little pings or those sensations that come from a certain area, I mean, it's indicating something's amiss or something needs attention. Like I said, I've become hypersensitive in my experience. I've always been a feeler, always been too sensitive and all those other things. But, I pick up on a lot of those cues, and the same thing with my health journey. It was more just had to get in tune with my body and figured out how all these things worked and what it was trying to tell me. So if you're eating something and shortly after, you feel indigestion, bloating, that nauseous kind of feeling, get that kind of blah, going, there's something that's not mixing in there. And like I said, you're welcome to reach out, for tips or direction on some of the things that you're experiencing of, hey, I've been going, I've felt like I've been bloated, or I've been getting a constant indigestion, or, I've been lacking sleep, or I've been super, like tense. We can help give you some direction, on
and I think
those.
one important thing to keep in mind too, is just not one thing, right? It's not only the pizza that you eat. It could be other thing as putting yourself in a situation that you don't like, or how I like to define it is energy. And people, either think it's woo-woo or scientific, but I like to look at it more in a scientific view, kind of mix it with spiritual stuff. We're all energetic beings. And that's how I like to describe it. All the way down to our molecular level, our cell is a casing for energy. So for all energy, your body feels, and this is the part that we aren't really taught to use, is why do I feel anxiety? Why do I feel tense? Why do I feel like, you're in a dark, like forest, right? And you're starting to get scared. Well, it's your body telling you, okay, be aware of this, be aware of that. And we all know that feeling. So when we have anxiety, don't just think it's one thing. It could be two things. It's not an or thing. It could be both. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because I know you have muscle tension every once in a great while, and you used to have it all the time. But also, what's not to say that your body's saying, be careful, don't go that way, or this person is bad. So there's so many ways to look at it at beyond the physical, what you're eating, right?
Yep.
Really be in touch with
So
that
yeah,
part
because
also.
you notice sometimes when you walk into a room or you go into a place and you suddenly get tense, or you feel that tension in your neck, or you notice your hands are clenching. It's all those other things that kind of go into more of like your situational awareness and like what kind of feedback your body's picking up on.
Mhm.
But from a physical standpoint, going back to the proprioceptors and proprioception, that includes your body's sense of effort, your sense of force, and also recognizing how heavy some things are. That's why some people have like naturally gifted, sports, is where most people shine,
Mhm.
that have really good proprioception, is their ability to pick up an object, throw an object, and be point on, to measure that distance, that amount of effort. You can utilize those things to tune into your body, the aches, the feelings that it's having, where you're having it. Like back, can be a lot of support issues. That's obviously what stands you upright. That's more structurally related. Humans carry a ton of emotion within their hips. So if your hips are
Mhm.
tight, your low back is tight, a lot of that can be just holding on to emotions, where things such as different modalities that we'll talk about, yoga, meditation, things like that can certainly help you release those. You'd be amazed what some of those things can do to help you overall as we get into mental and emotional and some of the
Mhm.
spiritual stuff.
And that's, you know what, that's a really good point because a lot of people also carry weight around, right? So what does that mean? What does it look like in the physical? You probably
Weight,
are,
baggage.
yeah, you
Yeah, you're
probably
holding
are
on to stuff.
overweighted. If you have back problems, right? What do we carry on our back? Things. And that could
Hmm.
be problems, right? So these are things that we are not processing. We are not working through, or what I would like to call embracing these, um,
These
unhealed, yeah,
experiences, yeah.
yeah, these
Okay.
experience, and set them free, let them go and be free or liberated from it so we can let it go. So yeah, do you have any more?
Mm-mm. No, that was just more. My questions were, your ability to listen and decipher to what it's telling you. How would you grade yourself or look at that? Um, and then how conscious and connected are you with your physical self? I mean, everybody knows, like I said, their basics, their hands, their feet, that sort of thing. But kind of knowing your inner workings. I mean, after all, you spend the most time with yourself than you do anybody else in this life. So kind of like figuring out and exploring this vessel. And that's
Mhm.
what I had to do on my health journey, was really understand some of those cues and things like that, and it made me hypersensitive, but I think some of it was already there, but now I know how to process it. And that kind of leads us to our next thing, the mental side of it. Jumping into that, what is mental awareness mean? That is most commonly explained as mindfulness or presence. The kind of feeling of being centered is ultimately what people want to chase. Well, what does that look like? I mean, mindfulness and presence can mean so many things to different people. It's more subjective to that person. It's, what does it mean to be mindful? Mindful of what? What I'm doing, where I'm at. Mindful of what I'm going to be doing going forward, or is it mean in that moment, or is it mean in that day? It's I think just a awareness of your mental aspect and where you're at any given time, and being able to talk to yourself, in a constructive way. It's
Mhm.
something that we discuss quite often, is what's your self-talk look like? How are you breaking things down or processing stuff? But mental awareness and being centered, I feel, breaks down to a lot of self-regulation and self-discipline. It's your ability to manage yourself, and being in leadership and coaching and mentoring a lot of other leaders and managers. I feel as though if you can't manage yourself, you have a tough time managing others. It kind of comes down to that accountability, and holding a standard, and operating by a certain system of morals and values. So,
Yes.
um, with that, I mean, one of the more important things with mental awareness is self care. That's something you and I actively make time out, for, is self-care can look like a lot of different things. I know we covered a lot of the basics as far as taking care of your physical body in the last portion, but that can be through meditations, reflection, hobbies, things that allow you to create. For us, it's more exploring, doing introspective type activities or childlike activities, things that allow you to play, kind of take your mind off of all the other shit you got going. But doing things that allow you to create and kind of get into a different mode. Getting outside for us is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that it kind of goes back to your soul essence of what you're looking for. Do those types of activities that will give you things that'll fill you up, which I know we've all heard, but we don't make enough time for.
Yeah. Mental for me, it's being mentally aware, self-aware is, to me, was a huge game changer in my life, because it really helped me understand if I was a victim, or, if I was playing that victim hood card, or the victor, right? That was such a huge, huge game changer for me. So in any, how I looked at myself in the situation I was in, I dictated that by how I thought about it. My mind, I really understood at a young age that it was, for me, it was the most powerful thing, because that could set my tone for the whole day, or within a relationship, right?
Yep.
At a job, with a relationship with my kids. If they did something, if they got in trouble, did something bad, I was huffing and puffing and pissed off for like the whole day. But if I change that mindset into, all right, let's go treat this as more of a learning opportunity for them.
Right.
Everything in my, that day still was great. So I really had to ask myself, how am I talking to myself? What am I thinking about myself? How am I going to, look at this situation that I'm in? So for me, it all started in the mind. And then a lot of us do have the mentality of not thinking of ourselves in a good way. So little by little, I kind of, and this is how I like to explain it, is brainwash myself into thinking like
you just got to reprogram yourself.
Yeah, I'm the best. The confident, the worthiness, and even down to the love. I am, I'm beautiful. I'm worth it. I can do this. I'm, amazing, and all that good stuff. So I had to really understand what my mind was feeding myself. Was it in a negative or positive way?
Yeah.
And
what were you focused on? What were you looking for? Because that's ultimately what you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seeing frustration and negativity and things not going right, that's all you're going to identify as and see. But, with that and the self-care, where you're kind of talking about is being aware of your mental state, and knowing where you're at. A lot of us can, back to that self-regulation is know when you're stressed, when you're having anxiety, but also being aware of like when you're starting to fall in depressive states, you're starting to have withdrawal or fatigue, like your mood starts changing, you become very irritable, but on the other side of it too is look at those experiences that make you happy, make you joyful, that are positive, that are uplifting, that are inspiring, or at least leave you pleased or satisfied, and start putting yourself around those more. Like you were saying on the environment side of stuff, you become who and what you surround yourself with. And there is so much truth to that. And I'm also talking to the extent of the type of shit you listen to, like the music, all the stuff you're subliminally programming yourself to, the type of shows you watch, the reels you watch, you become what you start immersing yourself in. And so you really have to be mindful of how that's either benefiting or how it's obstructing you from like where you want to be. And that was something for me that was a really big, like, bleeding out, or like, cleaning out some of the things, that I would tolerate, because I had to be more aware on the self-care of the things that were draining me, or the things that were really taking me away from my goals, or the things that I wanted to do, like for betterment. It was more of a hindrance, and I don't mean to say it in a negative way, but ultimately for my success and my progress, it was.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I also did with helping me in my mental awareness wasn't to be so closed off. And
Yeah.
it was a bit hard because it was either my way or no way,
Yep.
or my way was the right way, or my perspective, my understanding was the only way, right? Or I knew it all also was
Yep.
like a hindrance to me. So when I opened my mind to everything and anything that was in my surroundings, there was a reason why I was, hearing it. There was a reason why I was seeing it. And so I would ask myself, okay, so why am I seeing this? And that open mind mentality and that student mind mentality helped me so much. Like
Yeah.
there was never a failure in my vocabulary anymore, because as a student, that's what you do. You learn. And one of the things that go with learning and being successful is failure.
Yeah.
You cannot learn any other way. So failure became such a good thing to me because that only meant I learned something from it, or there's something to be learned from it, right? And that could help me with shifting things here and there and then going at it again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I haven't felt like a failure for a good while.
Yeah. And that's on the mental side of things is, yeah, you have to try things. You do have to fail. And in any of those experiences, one of the big shifts that I found, is to look at things from just switching one simple word around. And I know we've all heard it as, why does this keep happening to me? This happened to me, is viewing it from a perspective of, why does this happen for me? I know I've said that often, is things happen for you gives you a different perspective as you have something to gain for it. Having something happen to you is more of a perspective of, like that's a victimhood kind of a mentality, or, like I deserve better. We all deserve better. Life is tough. There's a ton of challenges. But I think from a mental standpoint of, if you look at stuff that's happening for you, something to gain from it every single time. It's always going to be for your benefit. If it's happening to you, a lot of times it's, well, that sucks. And if it keeps happening to you, there's a reason. Like what Janita's saying is, there's something you need to change, something you need to learn, something you need to shift about it, because you keep getting that shown to you. So it get you out of your own repetitive habits on stuff. And that goes back to being open-minded versus closed-minded. One of the things on the mental side also is challenging your own perspectives, challenging what you know. Maybe view things from a different standpoint. Maybe, your experience, the viewpoint that you looked at things, does keep you bound, does add a weight to you, whereas freeing yourself from that, forgiving maybe the people that were involved on it, and figuring out what you were supposed to learn out of it can be really a freeing experience, that can clear out a lot of space on your mental side of stuff that clogged you up. Like I said, you become what you surround yourself with. So start surrounding yourself, first and foremost, with more positive kind of people, things that you're listening, exposing yourself to. Like I said, even goes down to music, especially with some of the shit out nowadays. I mean, it's, you're subliminally plugging your head with it. Another really important thing is, once you've established that, set some boundaries. I mean, we all have our non-negotiables. Create that balance for yourself and for others. So, like, hey, I don't do that anymore. Everybody's gone through different phases in their lives where you kind of refine yourself. It doesn't have to be New Year's Day. Any damn day can be New Year's Day. The day that you want to, take your life back, get back on path, get back to where you want to be. I think when, you start coupling the mental and physical side of stuff and your ability to listen, take all that feedback, those experiences, those nonverbal cues that your body is giving you, to being able to listen and where those things come from. And if this, situation, the environment, the relationship, whatever it may be, doesn't serve you or does serve you, you can decipher what choice serves you best. And then it gives you the ability to speak, and speak properly as to, I don't do that because I feel like this when it's there. And it may be a misunderstanding, but it allows you to open up that communication that we'll get to once we start learning all these verbal and nonverbal cues that our body's telling us. So my question, on there was, what kind of thoughts do you have of yourself and situations, when you leave different things? Do you feel drained? Do you feel like, man, that was great, I need to spend more time with those people? Is it, do you feel like you're learning and progressing? Just really start breaking situations down and how those experiences resonate with you, both from the mental standpoint of how you're left, but also the physical side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Do you guys have any questions so far about what we talked about as far as mental and physical awareness?
And we'll leave some time at the end too, because we'll help try to tie a lot of these things together as well.
Yeah. Okay. So Davina said no. Do you want to move on to the next one of self-awareness?
Yeah, I think we're staying pretty well on schedule.
Yeah.
So spiritual awareness. Now, this is one that I'm going to give you just kind of an unbiased, opinion on things, not interject any type of beliefs or anything like that, because I feel as though spiritual self-awareness and understanding yourself at like a soul level and breaking down and having that ability to now listen to your physical aspects of your body, to then you're breaking down and assessing your mental awareness. When you start getting into the spiritual side of things, I don't want to get lines blended, because I feel as though this transcends any religion, that it goes beyond, I guess, some of the confines of things. But spiritual awareness is defined as awareness and recognition and understanding of a deeper aspect of self. It's a lot of people describe it as something bigger than them, greater than them. It is often not viewed as anything physical. It can be viewed as a mental state, as a set of beliefs, but it's not anything that's physical, and it goes beyond your normal perception or your personal identity, or what most people would refer to as an ego. It goes into, people will call God, Christ, creator, different whatever. But this is more, we're talking like the awareness to self, like being more centered in self, not self-centered. That's one of the things that Janita will always say is, are you looking at it as a self-centered or as a centered self? It's just switching those words around, but it is a total night and day perspective on things. So that is being more aware of what we're talking about, your inner self, your true self, what people will call their purpose, or their calling. And whether that is a divine presence, if you're searching for an inner peace, or if you're just looking for a universal consciousness, like what does this all mean? A lot of people are going through, and what we're currently studying is the identity crisis, the meaning crisis, the purpose crisis. Everybody's looking that everything needs to have a meaning, everything needs to have a purpose. You give those things meaning, you give those things purpose. So that's why we're really trying to break down self and self-awareness, is because then you can find a lot more of the inner harmony. That stuff really, can free you from a lot of the other bullshit that we carry. So as I said, if you're searching for a divine presence, you're searching for an inner peace, or even like a universal consciousness, a meaningness, purposefulness. We feel as though it's fostered by several different things. Mental awareness is fostered by good self-talk, how you treat yourself. Do you talk with yourself to understand, or do you talk at yourself? I know a lot of us have been guilty of talking at ourselves, but it's kind of that interpersonal relationship that you have with you. A lot of that can be dictated, into the mental side of stuff, but seeking spiritual awareness, like an enlightenment, in that will help you, with self-talk. Also, something that I've spent a lot of time in is gaining wisdom and understanding of perspective. There's a whole lot of people a hell of a lot smarter than me that had been around a lot longer, a lot more than some of the things that get clouded up in our information now, the things that distract us. So I've spent a lot of time looking at psychology. One of the things was to better understand myself. In turn, I understood others better, which will lead us to the empathy side, which is the third segment. But also learning philosophy. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of wisdom that spent a lot of time well before the internet and all the other bullshit that have helped guide and inspire, you know, me to live and lead a little bit differently. For us, you know, getting outside, getting grounded, walking around barefoot is incredibly important. You know, it just helps you discharge. We spend a lot of time, you know, as beings, energetically, physically, walking around on artificial surfaces in things that if we need to be connected to nature, and that's one thing that Janita understands fully is, you know, the earth aspect of stuff and being outside and what that means to be rooted in nature versus all the stimulus that we surround ourselves with. It teaches you things like compassion, mindfulness, gives you more of an inner mental clarity. You know, when you kind of put yourself in and around those environments, that's why we talked about some of the places that you find yourself at. One of the questions that we ask is, you know, ourselves is, why are you going there? Are you going there to appease others, or is it something that you really want to do and want to be a part of? I think a lot of us spend a lot of time trying to appease others, and then you don't actually take care of yourself and you leave yourself drained or empty on things. So doing meditation, doing a lot of introspection, like I said, studying, looking at different perspectives. As Janita had said, we spend a lot of time with a student mindset of what can I learn versus what do I know. I spent a lot of time in my life kind of being a know-it-all, you know, and just saying I know and figuring it out. I had to learn a lot of shit the hard way, you know, where now there's a much easier way as far as utilizing resources and things like that. So part of why we want to put out this content, but also, you know, kind of put you in the right direction. As we said, we're not giving you the answers, but just showing you some of the places to look. Because I feel, and it's been known that when you guys discover the answers on yourself, that's when positive learning has occurred, you know, where it's retained. Somebody could shout you the answers, but you're not necessarily going to learn it that way. So we're just trying to help give you the cliff notes and speed you through some of the things. So doing things that help you at a soul level, you know, will help you with your spiritual side that you'll find are energetic. And like I said, none of this is confined to any particular religion or belief system. It's just learning more about you, the things that you experience that are around you, you know, just including the immediate area to your regions, to your spot on the globe, the whole world, your reference to the universe, the stars. There's a whole lot of things that you can learn and a lot of wisdom you can gain. And I don't think any one of us in this lifetime could learn and observe it all and beat the game, if you will.
No. So soul/spiritual awareness. For me, I feel like it's almost as simple as saying knowing your authentic self. Yeah. And so when I say that, a lot of us think we know who we are because we have been told what we are, right? Since the moment we were young, you're supposed to be this. If you're a woman, you're probably going to be a mom and you cater to the family. You're kind of told what you are going to be, what you're going to do, and how are you going to do it, in what way, and you have this timeline put out for you. But sometimes, most of the times, and I want to say, maybe most of the times, I would like to describe the soul essence of ourselves as in the spark within us, right? We could live this life in a rich, fancy home and all that kind of stuff, but that fire within us is dead because we are not our authentic self. We are not happy on the inside. And that's how I like to look at it. You know, and you see that, right, with celebrities. They're told what to do, how to act, and all these kind of stuff. isn't feeding their souls, and they know it because, like the money and everything, they're just not happy anymore. But if you look at it in the ways like what really makes you happy, and not and sometimes you don't even know because you've never tried it, right? So the best way to do it is to connect. For me, and this is what Matt was saying, is be connected to things that you have not been connected to. This year, image or the Grand Tetons. The first time you look at it is just so beautiful and amazing. And for me, that sparked my soul, and it fed my spirituality, or my, the aspect of myself. And it really just gave me that joy that I was, I guess, I wasn't missing, but it just gave me that cherry on top of joy and feeling it. So what is it that you are or aren't doing that you're not, or how you're not feeding your soul, your spark? And that's really one of the tough questions to ask yourself. And it's kind of hard to find out if you do not experience all that there is, because of fear, because of lack of failure, because of, going back to our mental state, because we're going to upset somebody. So that's how I would explain, soul and spiritual self-awareness. How well are you connected to the universe?
Yeah.
And what that means to you, and how do you feed your spark, being your authentic self. And, the questions I ask is, how do I feed my soul? And like Matt said, it's like, could be a simple walk in nature. Yeah. That, it's the smell of the rain on dirt.
Yeah.
That's
like fresh rain, those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that is just getting out and experiencing, and kind of, for me, it's unplugging from a lot of the other stimulation and distraction, and just kind of getting centered back to, some of the basics, and just enjoy in the moment, the things that are around me. A lot of, like back to the people that we surround ourselves with, are the people that you're surrounding yourself with, positive and progressing, are they growing? Are they, like continually challenging themselves and kind of have that overcomer type of mentality? Or are they negative and draining and have that lacking kind of victimhood mentality on stuff? Relationships, like the people that you put yourself around, the education and everything that you're feeding yourself, from a spiritual aspect, can open up your perspective, and there can be so much more to gain, that gives you a greater sense of a harmony, like purpose or fulfillment. I really think, like the insights and perspectives that you can gain from, we've both gotten really big into reading, and now being in the Midwest, going into wintertime, we're not going to be outside and as active as much. So might as well be stimulating our brain, and gives you things to do. Like if you go to the gym and ride the bike, or some things, to listen to, if you're doing a different healthy activity that confines you to the inside during the winter because you don't like the cold.
All right, let's go. Do you guys have any questions at this time? Just a quick apology. I keep going in and out because I'm the
media gal.
I'm the media girl, so I'm take care of all the cameras and lights and stuff like that. So you'll see me get up and get back here. But so if we don't have any questions, do you want to take it on to the next one?
No, I'll say on the spiritual side, I mean, ultimately it's just leading to helping you discover who you are, like what things are about, listening to yourself on a soul level, doing things that stimulate you, that helps keep you out of the grind, that 9-to-5 grind, that there is something bigger to help show you fulfillment, how you can make a difference. But also give you ears to listen to what you're speaking from on a soul essence. Like I said, we've all had a calling, and you hear of those radical stories where I did this to go do this. And it's like, what in the hell were they thinking? They were listening is what they were doing. So one of the things that we skipped on the mental side, which also ties into everything that we're doing, is a lot of us are familiar with prayer. Praying is your time to do the speaking. One of the important things in meditation is your time to do the listening. A lot of people do a lot of praying, wishing for what they want, speaking. We all know the power of manifestation. But when you take the time to listen, and that's meditation, that's self-reflection, that time that we don't carve out enough for ourselves, that's your time to listen. That's the time you're being spoken to, versus you doing the speaking. So that was one of the things I wanted to make sure I put some emphasis on or kind of tied in. So we'll tie into the last part, which is emotions. Hopefully we don't go over time on that, because we do feel that that is something that feeds into all of these houses, helping better understand emotions, to hopefully give you some insights and perspectives on that. So,
Okay.
Emotions,
it's a love and hate thing with a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Emotions, damn it.
Because you have a lot of people that wear their emotions on their sleeves. They wear their heart on their sleeves. Everything like that. Janita spends a lot of time talking about triggers and things that trigger you, why that happens, how that happens, how to get over those. I have to deal with a lot of public, a lot of people. So I have to be mindful of energy and not have things drain you. How to kind of turn that situation, as I said earlier, happening for you instead of to you, just to kind of flip that perspective and make a big difference, in how people are viewing it. Because nobody really likes to listen to somebody sit and bitch for too long. We've all had those times where you just go home absolutely drained because everybody sucked the life out of you. It's one of those things. It's using things to your advantage, using things to your positively helps with that mindset. So you want to start on emotion?
Okay, so being self-aware of your emotions, and sometimes that could be a tricky thing, right? Because sometimes we self-deception, or self-denial. We kind of just push it away, suppress it, and that is not a good thing. From what I like to tell people is, once I understood my emotions, they were just literally a tool to help guide me to where I need to pay attention to heal that trauma, or to heal that static energy within, right? So, like I said, I like to explain things more in an energetic kind of level, on a more scientific and like spiritual kind of level, kind of mixed together. So when we have something happen to us, like trauma, right? And it could be as simple as on a playground and another kid telling you your coat is ugly. That regardless of what it is, and who's to say what's trauma, right? To you, who gets to dictate that? You, your soul, your being
was your
gets
experience
to dictate what's trauma. And the thing that we don't know is something as small as that can be imprinted in you. And so when the moment that happens, and throughout life, you kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's imprinted in you. And so now you're thinking, my outfit is disgusting, or I am not good looking.
And as you said, it goes back to that first time you experienced it. Mm-hmm. That feeling of lack of not, being valued, not being heard, not being seen, being made fun of. A lot of those things, dictate, over your mental state, whether you realize it or not. And then when that emotion crops up again, that little sense goes off, and you're like, sound the alarm.
Yes. And once I understood that, I really got good at being my own detective as far as using my emotions. And I just kind of started falling in love with it, because when I got triggered, whether that be by sadness, insecurity, jealousy, lack of anger, I would sit and ask myself, why are we angry? What happened? What did they say, or what was the situation? Why did it make me feel this way? Mm-hmm. And 9 out of 10 times, I go down this rabbit hole and I keep asking. And it goes back to the first time I have ever felt that feeling. And so I have to address it and understand why it made me feel that way, right? And most of the time, I understand it was just another person projecting their trauma on me. So then you get to understand that phase of hurt people hurt people. And that's a true saying. There's a lot of these things that we have, there is meaning behind it, but we throw it around like we know, what it means, right? That is where that comes from. Hurt people hurt people. And so it kind of goes, it goes down and it's passed on, kind of like a virus. It just kind of starts spreading, right? Everybody just starts hurting each other. So when we understand that that person was probably a hurt person in some way, somebody else hurt them and it was projected to us, we no longer take it personally.
Yeah.
We find compassion in that moment and understand why they did it. Now we don't feel our jacket's not too ugly or we are ugly or that we're less of, or, all the things that we're feeling. Right. And so I kind of became in love with my emotions because it really helped me navigate to all the hurt and the trauma that I had. And in doing that, it really helped me let go of a lot of emotion, and things and triggers were less as I navigated through that.
Right.
And I wouldn't have done that if it weren't being aware of my emotions.
Right. And so that's the importance and why we'd save the best for last with emotions is those are your indicators. Those are your clues as to where things are coming from. Why are they holding space, like within your life, in your memory, where do they stem from? Because like I said, your emotions, you can feel that physically in your body. That's where you get the tension, you get the anxiety, you get that unsettled feeling in your gut. A lot of those, body cues are coming in. But also from a mental standpoint, like where are they residing in your memory, like in your hard drive, if you will, that they keep cropping up, and how can you free and release yourself from them and not have it hold space? Because nobody, we all know people that are absolutely wound tight and the slightest little thing doesn't go their way and it just fucking spins them out. Like that's ruining your day. That's controlling you. And so I guess, why are you allowing that to just eat you up? I mean, it should not do that. That's ruining your experience. Like, why are you allowing it? And if you're cool and you enjoy that, then great. More power to you. It'll probably go to the ladder where we won't surround ourselves with you as much, because it does become draining too to others around you. But that same, like aspect of stuff, it's like, be free. Like, shit happens. Things don't go your way. You can't control the outcome of everything. But when you know where they stem from, like I said, you can release it. It doesn't carry as much weight and burden and dictate, the course of your day, And
emotions can really help you understand how healthy your mental awareness is, because sometimes when a situation happens, to us or for us, whatever way you want to look at it, sometimes we are in that bind of a failure, right? For so long that nobody wants to be around it. And that's when the emotions take over. You know what I mean? And your mental isn't there to say, all right, this is here because we have to learn something. This is an opportunity to learn more about ourselves or the people that we are around, the people that we are leading, or the kids that we are parenting, or right. the person I am in a relationship with. So emotion really is a good, it really does help you understand your mental health.
Right.
And like you said, it really does. It's like this really cool web where they intertangle every one of the aspects that we're talking about intertangles in a way. And it's not, like I said, and the one thing I want you to understand is not an or thing. It doesn't only, affect you physically. It affects you both physically and mentally. Mm-hmm. So, getting your head out of just two ways, there could be multiple ways of why it is happening to you. And it's a beautiful thing about open mind. But I'm sorry, I'm going kind of going off track here. But yeah, emotions. It really,
it's your feedback. It's part of your sensory system. You know, it's part of your memory. You know, it's all of those things that tie together. And we want to empower you to be able to break down and analyze, you know, where those things come from, manage your emotions so you control them and they don't control you. You can start playing chess with your life rather than checkers. You know, it's a much more, you know, grown up adult game. You know, it's a thinking man's game. When you start to understand and process those, it makes a profound difference in your life. We're not telling you you can't feel. You know, I was always told you're sensitive, you feel too much, you're this and that, you're moody, you know, whatever. I think like I can shut that shit off. That shit's running. I just needed to know how to communicate with it and how to process it, how to use it to my advantage, rather than trying to numb it, you know, like medicate from it, you know, do those types of things. It was just more how to use these things, you know, for a better life, a better quality of life. I've always found myself in like a management and leadership role. It's nothing that I asked for, but it's because of this quest that I've been on. You know, Janita brings a lot of experience to it from a parenting side of stuff, without divulging too much on her situation, but it's primarily co-parenting, which a lot of people find themselves in. That's even more difficult, dealing with, you know, the kid's best interests and what the big picture is versus, you know, individual needs and emotions and that person who obviously you had indifference with and now having to co-parent with, you know, but just how to speak and communicate effectively, how to process all of those emotions so they don't screw you up mentally, they don't manifest in a physical aspect, you know. And like I said, on the spiritual side of things, just keep you in tune and in touch with yourself, because a lot of this, you know, like you get disconnected with where you should be and told how you should be, versus chasing that inner drive.
Yeah. So it's emotion. I mean, I can keep going on and on for days about emotions, because it really does lead and tie into so many different things in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's your feedback. And so I think we're about out of time. We do want to answer any questions that anybody had, get any feedback. But we will be dissecting and breaking these things down. We just wanted to do more of an introduction into self-awareness, what those 4 aspects look like, you know, and really appreciate your guys' time and for tuning in. Like I said, we want your feedback, your input. Give us some questions. Have this stuff settle in with you. Let it proverbially digest, so that you become more aware on all of those aspects and help you grow, free you from some of the things that otherwise bind you, whether you realize it or not.
And in this series, it's pretty much liberating you from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And helping yourself in a way that isn't against you, if that makes sense. You have, and I think for me, I always say is like the only team you need is yourself. And you have a whole bunch of team right here with your eyes, your senses, your emotions, your mental. You are a well-equipped human beings to navigate you through, you know, what we call life, and to liberate you from all that is like subjecting you to standards, right? I go like a little bit more deeper into like matrix and stuff.
How they're trying to confine you and put you in a box and everything else. So.
Yeah. So, but hopefully this helps you discover yourself a little bit better, understand yourself a little bit better.
And didn't tell you what to think, but more showed you how to think.
Yeah. So this is self-awareness. Next one we're going to do is
emotional intelligence. So we get to talk about emotions for breaking it down for a whole hour. So thank you guys for checking in and everything, tuning in. We appreciate your participation.
Yeah. If you guys don't have any questions, we're going to let you go. And please tell your friends and family or whoever you think that this could help them now that you've experienced for yourself. And that, honestly, that's all we want, is for people to really understand themselves. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All right, you
We'll all
guys.
get there. Thank you guys.